Another episode of State of the Franchise is ready to get going, and we're getting to that time where we got to cut the final roster, Jason. 53 down from 90. A lot of tough decisions ahead. And it also depends who's going to be on the roster, of course. A couple names been circling around for a little bit. I wonder who those guys are. But we'll talk about all those different things, who's coming back to practice, who we think can stand out and actually make the final 53-man roster. You guys already know what to do. Smash that like button on both channels. Let's get into it all right now. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. Jason, what is good, my guy? What are the vibes over there on the East Coast like?
It's great. The 49ers finished their preseason schedule on Friday, meaning 1 week, and let's get right back to it. It just feels like it's so close. The first game's on September 5th, and Friday. The only thing that sucks is, why is this game at 10 o'clock my time? I like what did I do to the NFL to deserve that? Like,
why is it
for them
Friday?
To say, Friday at 10 o'clock, you realize that I'm going to be up until like 3 a.m, most likely. Like, thanks a lot, NFL. Like, this is how you know they don't care about the little people.
Oh, that NFL, that money-making hungry machine out there doing what they do. But hey, we are going to watch whenever we can. So let's talk about what's kind of your quick. I'm sure you've talked about it a couple times. Just some quick takeaways from the preseason game against the Saints.
Oh, Jacob Cowing's really good at football, and I'm so happy that is showing itself up. And apparently today he continued to play well and looks like somebody who's building confidence pretty fast. That's a great thing. Shout out to Justin, man. This is your time, man, right now. This is like Cowing Hive time right now.
Yeah.
That's really good. And the secondary, I think the secondary, especially the cornerback, is the most compelling one for me. Like, what do you do? What are you valuing, right? With Yadam and Rock Ya-Sin and Samuel Womack and Darrell Luter and Renardo Green, who apparently today in camp was playing outside with Demo playing inside. Obviously, Sorensen's talked about them playing him in and out because of flexibility and just trying to figure out what the fit is. But, Renardo Green being the one who steps up, obviously Yadam is dealing with an injury. Rock Ya-Sin actually played a bunch against the Saints. So, yeah, I guess the secondary and Jacob Cowing is really good at football. That's what and Dobbs is your QB too.
Yeah, man, it's been fun watching Jacob Cowing because he's kind of been low-key under the radar because he started this training camp injured. So we didn't even get to see him. And the first day out at training camp, he had a touchdown, he had a juggling catch, and you're just like, yeah, all right, this guy. And you see it now in preseason. He's making that beautiful catch down the right sideline to Dobbs. He has a hand right in his chest, and he still traps the ball, gets 2 feet in bounds. Beautiful. You see him on the end around, showing off the speed. Even on the one where I think it might even have been a tackle for a loss because
it was a screen where he was reversing field and everything.
It was
kind of blown up. It was blown up from the beginning, but the agility to move around, like, again, he had an impact when he had the ball.
Yeah, and you could see, like, all right, this guy can make guys miss. And so, yes, we like what we see from Jacob Cowing. What's your level of concern right now for Ricky Pearsall?
5. And 5 is it's 5 out of 10. 5 just being, well, all right, let me spin it the positive way. We're actually really excited about this rookie class. Renardo Green, Malik Mustafa, obviously Dominic Pooney is about to start at right guard. Even Batoon has been very good, right? We're all excited for this draft class, and we still haven't seen Ricky Pearsall take a snap yet, really.
Right.
So I think I if you want to look at it in a positive way, it's like, well, look at all this other stuff that's working, and imagine if he picks up. But I think it's because Not because the pick is bad, is because of the scouting report that was about him and what the concerns were going to be in terms of, can he beat NFL level press coverage from the inside, from the outside, wherever it is he's going to be played, because he's going to be moved around. Those concerns are still going to be there going into this next week because we haven't seen it. And that doesn't mean that, one way or another he's good or he's bad at that or anything like that. It's just, it would have been really nice for him to get those reps, not only in training camp, but at least in this game to kind of show what he can do. So I guess we're just going to have to hold off. The question becomes, what do the 49ers do when they're trying to get to 53? And Ricky Pearsall hasn't played a preseason game or a snap. I seriously doubt he's going to the practice squad. What do the 49ers do? Yeah. What do the 49ers do here with Pearsall? Keep him as number 6 now at this point, because there's 5 guys in front of him that have actually played recently. Maybe he's number 6, but he's knocked all the way down the depth chart. Or dare I say, something drastic like a redshirt season, which I don't foresee happening. I'm just saying they have an interesting decision to do with Pearsall.
Well, the cool thing that I think the NFL implemented was the ability to put players on IR and be able to bring them back.
So that's the rule I'm a little iffy on. Like like if you put him on PUP, then he never counted, or if it's on IR, like all those things, kind of like what we saw with Latu last year. That's the part that I'm not certain of.
Right. And I don't have, the definition in front of me, but my understanding is you can put a player on IR before you cut the final 53, and they have an opportunity to return, unlike years past. And again, we've seen the success with the NFL implementing short-term IR. I think they need this flexibility. They need roster flexibility to keep a competitive product on the field. You need guys in your system that you can develop and you can move on and off the roster, because face it, if you're only going to give a team 53 guys and 3 of those guys are specialists, like there's not a lot of room for depth. And we know there's injuries happen nonstop. So in regards to that, I don't know if he will start on IR. I would imagine he wouldn't. I think that would just be a situation that would get a lot of people
gut punch.
Again, I know I've been covering the NFL long enough to understand that, sometimes it's better to start out on fire than to start out slow and then end up on fire, because the perception that the first impression in an NFL fan base's mind is almost everything, right? Yep. Like, think about Jalen Hurd. Think about his first impression. And that first impression lasted him probably 14 chances to make this
another chance.
Right. But if let's say Jalen Hurd didn't have that 2 touchdown performance against the Cowboys, and he was just hurt, they would be calling for him off the roster, not like, oh, let's wait and see. So from a perception standpoint, right, like you don't want to see Pearsall start out on IR, but it is a little concerning that he hasn't participated in won't participate in any preseason games. But the hope is that the shoulder isn't that serious and he could be ready to go for week 1, right?
If they think that he has a chance to be ready for week 1 with the week off, then obviously, I mean, look, one way or another, I think there's no way that Ricky Pearsall doesn't make this 53-man roster. It's just impossible. It's just impossible, right?
Kyle would never.
It's literally just impossible. Like Doghouse, one thing, leaving a first rounder off come on. But yeah, I did hope to kind of see him be mixed in a little bit more early on, but it seems like Cowing is fitting that role right now a little bit better and has been progressing a little more. And he could be that chess piece. Like, we all want him to be Tank Dell. I think that's best case scenario. And then we're just going off of 1 year of Tank Dell. But he could be the Taylor Gabriel of this offense from Atlanta, like a little bit, provided Brandon Ayuk shows up with the 49ers, right? Like, that part is really good. But you could have Jacob Cowing playing in the slot. But I did like in the Saints game, he only ran 8 of his routes from the slot in pass game. So he can be on the outside and actually win those sort of routes as well too. So I think that's what makes him valuable. And I think in the slot, it becomes even harder to cover him because those short, shifty guys with speed they're always going to put pressure on whoever the slot is or the safety or the linebacker or whoever it is that they get matched up with. So, yeah, I think right now you would want to see the first round pick doing it. But I think what we're seeing is Cowing kind of sliding into that role so far. And I don't think either is worrisome one way or another as long as one of them did.
Right. And you talked about 6. Is that your number? 6 wide
6.
receivers?
Yeah. So Ayuk, Samuel, Jennings, Cowing, Pearsall, and Conley.
That's the same 6 that I got. I would say that if we're keeping 7, I'm keeping Ronnie Bell in that instance.
Whoa!
Dude, everyone hates Ronnie Bell right now.
No,
dude,
no, not even that.
Y'all?
Not even that. Not even that. You are disrespecting. You are disrespecting TT81 or TT19 right now.
It's 19 now. No, I've said it all along, dude. Trent Taylor is going to have a massive uphill climb to make this roster. His best
practice squad, you think?
Practice squad elevated for punt returns if that's what they want to use him for. That's, I'm a big TT guy just personally. I think he was the first player to ever follow me on my Instagram, so I have a different connection to TT than others. But I still, this whole time, I'm like, man, him making the roster is going to be an uphill battle. He's probably going to have to be on the practice squad and potentially be that guy that gets elevated for game day, even that. But again, they add Robbie Chosen, right? You've got that guy on the roster, Danny
Tay
Gray.
Martin's been up on game days sometimes.
Tay Martin, dude. I think Tay Martin had a real rough start to this camp, just being hurt, right? So he wasn't able to shine. So I think Tay Martin could have been in the conversation for that final spot, but him being hurt, I don't know, maybe is a benefit for the 49ers because that means they can probably get him back on the practice squad again. I really like Tay Martin. I think he's fantastic. With Ronnie Bell, I get it. He's had some drops and all that, those good things. And that's, not sticking well with a lot of people. And I totally understand. You only get so many ops and you got to take advantage of it. But what I do say with Bell is I've at least seen him make the tough catches in practice. So I know he's capable.
Last season, he's made some big catches,
and he made some good blocks too. I mean, you think about the touchdown on that screen from Deebo Samuel in the Philadelphia game where he cuts all the way back across the field. Ronnie Bell's right there in the middle.
And then
throwing a huge block.
You think of that touchdown pass against the Giants where, he was in the end zone, boxed out, got his 2 feet in. I mean, those plays are there, but for sure, I think Ronnie Bell is on the outside right now just with, Trent Taylor and all those guys.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah, I think it's 6. I don't know if they keep 7. That's hard.
If they keep 7, I think it's Ronnie Bell. But they
got a tough decision at running back.
Yeah, there's multiple tough decisions on this roster. So I think that's one of them. Everyone else, I think, will have the opportunity to come back on the practice squad. But let's talk about running back. Obviously, you have McCaffrey, Mitchell, Garendo, Schrader, Patrick Taylor, Matt Breida, Keyshawn Vaughn, and Jordan Mason. Obviously, Kyle Juszczyk's a lock. McCaffrey's a lock. I would say Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, locks.
Yep.
So one spot remains. Who makes it? We haven't even seen, I think, Garendo.
Keyshawn Vaughn's not going to make it. Cody Schrader is probably going to hit the practice squad. Unfortunately, his performance has been a mix of bad line and bad vision at times. So that's why you see the numbers that he's end up putting up. Matt Breida is the interesting one because Matt Breida just looks at home again, right? Like in this offense, being able to go out and catch passes and everything. If you put Isaac Garendo on the practice squad, someone's going to poach him. Someone's going to take him.
Oh, yeah. And they traded up for him. There's no way Isaac Garendo hits away from him.
It has to be him, right? If he gets significant run in this preseason game, I think I don't think there's any way you keep Garendo off this roster unless you want to admit defeat on a pick that early. So I think that's really interesting, but I think they'll be able to get by with certain guys on the practice squad. Patrick Taylor is somebody that they really like, especially in the pass game. And then you think about Matt Breida just being there kind of hanging out in case there's any injury. Unfortunately, Elijah Mitchell's had a tough time, staying healthy for, just being frank. And Matt Breida looks like he can step in for a game or just be a depth piece. So They have an interesting decision to do a running back, but I think there's no way that Isaac Guerrero doesn't make this 53 unless you want to wave the white flag on a pick that you traded up for that quickly.
Yeah, no, I think Cody Schrader, I think it's a consensus that everyone was intrigued by Cody Schrader heading into training camp. And he showed signs. He deserves to be on a practice squad. Absolutely. We were going to see if he could challenge for that last spot, knowing that the numbers game wasn't in his favor. So I think the best thing for Schrader is just get him back on the practice squad. He's a guy that we've seen the 49ers have been able to develop these undrafted free agent running backs. No shame in putting him on the practice squad, letting him develop. Matt Breida, I would like on the practice squad as well. Even Patrick Taylor, Keyshawn Vaughn, I would honestly be fine if he didn't come back or not onto the practice squad. But Taylor intrigues me. He's been hurt throughout training camp, so he hasn't gotten run really in preseason. So he was a guy I wouldn't mind. But, yeah, I think it's McCaffrey, Mitchell, Guerrero, Juszczyk, Mason, and that's what you got to rock with.
Brad Croc is asking IR for Isaac Guerrero. I think he's much more of a red shirt candidate than obviously Pearsall, right? Because of a first round pick. Like, you think that that's possible? The thing is
well, Guerendo's practicing.
No, Guerendo's practicing and about to play like significant run. But what if they, again, Brad? The hamstring started acting up again after the game. Right. Like, come on. We just did this with Cameron Latu last year. All of a sudden, now it's just a hamstring. It's like, you know what? He's done for the year. We're just going to put him on PUP and that's it.
They would only do that if they believe Cody Schrader gets claimed on waivers.
And I don't know if he would. You know what? He probably would. At this point, like, I feel like anybody who's going to get cut from this team is going to end up somewhere else. But I do think it's I think that Guerrero ends up making it unless they really are disappointed in him so bad with the way that he's looked, in terms of vision and what they need him to do, that they would throw him on IR, or PUP, whatever it is, so he could just miss the year and not count towards the 53. But yeah, man, I mean, I think that's way more of an interesting discussion than obviously Ricky Pearsall redshirting for a year.
Yeah, it could be a possibility, but I would be surprised, especially if Guerendo's healthy. Like, obviously, if he gets dinged up in the game, then definitely I think that is a potential outcome. But I don't know if Cody Schrader has just done enough to be like,
he hasn't, I don't think. No.
Yeah, so I think they would probably feel comfortable with him on the practice squad. I think you'd probably clear waivers and go through that situation.
Matt Breida is going to clear waivers?
I think so. I mean, he's a free agent heading into camp. He was it was a signed mid camp, right? Like, so yeah, I don't think anyone's.
That's fine. So that's fine to put him on a practice squad for Matt Breida. I don't know. He looked comfortable, man. And my McKinnon jersey, I can just write Breida over it, because he's wearing 28. Like, if he sticks around, so like, one of the 49ers gonna think of me?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think they ever think of you. I
don't think they do either. And that actually makes me mad.
What do you think about the tight ends? Who's going to lock in at tight end?
Good discussion right here. So obviously Kittle, Soybert, those are your two, right? But how many are they going to keep? I think Braden Willis has the inside track instead of Cameron Latu, who actually hasn't dropped a pass in a game, ever as a 49er, as in preseason or anything like that. Like, at least he hasn't been attributed one. According to PFF. Well, according to PFF,
I watched him drop it. I watched him not only in real person or in live, but I watched it on film. It was an egregious drop. So PFF's line, man.
How many tight ends are they keeping, Brad?
Who's tracking this stuff over PFF?
Yeah, exactly.
And like, what are we talking about? I saw the drop with my own eyeballs.
But the PFF metric. Wait. The PFF metric, though, like the PFF metric's supposed to let you know, like, again.
I guess if they're for PFF too,
right? They're keeping 4, right? At this point, I think I would say, right? 3.
Oh,
4. 3.
I think 3.
3. So he has to make it at tight end 3, right?
Latu?
No, because Braden Willis and Soybert with Kittle.
Yeah, those are the 3.
Yeah.
I think he gets cut.
I think Pline goes to the practice squad too.
I think Tonjes too. I like.
Yeah,
Tonjes.
He actually looked good against the Saints.
I think he looks better than Pline right now.
So that's it. We're giving up on Cameron Latu. This is it.
I think you try to get Latu back to the practice squad.
but I guarantee you someone's going to see his name out there and say
Oh,
Alabama
100
and just
third round draft pick.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
he looks the part. See, my
yeah.
thing with Latu is like I see the potential. I see that there's
Mhm.
something there, but I also
Yep.
see there's something going on here. Like there's
Yeah.
something like he's putting too much pressure on himself. He's pressing too much. He's just too much in his head. Even on one of the open catches that he had going across the middle up the right sideline, he almost dropped that pass. It was wide open, uncontested. If you look closely, it hits his hands and he has to re-secure it. So it was like a double catch, and it happens really fast. So it didn't really look like that like in real time. But when you go back and you look at it, he doesn't have control. You know, when you get that nice, just right in the hands, it went doot doot. And I was like, oh my God, he almost dropped that. Like I just feel like it's a mental thing. Like, because sometimes the ball is coming at you. You're like, what if I drop it? What happens if this happens? Like you're going through so many different stages in your head that it just you compound issues as a result. That's what I feel like his issue is. It's not a physical thing. It's a mental thing.
Someone who was at training camp, like on the field, let me know. And they said that there is something that is very difficult about the game for Latu, and it's about what they need him to do and understanding the play call and understanding it's all up here, right?
Yeah.
When you compound that with the fact that you're not sure about where you're supposed to be or where you're supposed to be going or what the concept is looking for or what they're looking for, that's when you all start thinking like all in your head. That's just somebody who was there, somebody I trust that was at training camp that told me that. So it kind of looks like that when you watch him play football as well too in these games. So I think a lot of that has to do with it. It's the what am I supposed to do here, and do I have the play call correctly grasped? Am I running the right route? Like when you start thinking about all that instead of reacting, then it's going to be hard to catch the football or do anything else really well.
Yeah. So I think I just don't think they can let Salbert go. I don't think they
No.
can let Willis go. Willis, I thought, has played actually really well
And
in the fullback role.
that's what I was just about to say. And doesn't that kind of show you what their plans are for him in a little bit? Like they even had him run the flood concept on the pass, the play action against Tennessee. They had him take a step like Juice to the right side, and they had him cut back over as the third throw. And obviously the free rusher broke that up. But they obviously have plans for Braden Willis to play that kind of role, or at least groom him to see if he can play that role. And I think that's hard to ignore on top of the fact that he actually played down the stretch last year.
Yeah, so I think Braden Willis is still probably a year or two away from finding his groove, but he's got enough potential that you carry him as your 3. Sauber is a good enough blocker. You got to have him at 2, and the fact that Braden Willis can be your break in case of emergency juice replacement, like if he gets hurt, you want that guy on your roster. So yeah, I think it's the end of the line. For Latu. Any thoughts on offensive line? I think we can all agree once Trent Williams comes back, Aaron Banks, Brendel, Pooney, McKivitz, I'm going to go ahead and say we both think Jalen Moore is a lock as your left swing tackle.
Correct.
I would assume that we both believe Burford is going to be here.
Correct.
Where do you go after that?
Ooh. Well, the Feliciano Center thing has kind of played itself out. And they have to make the decision now, like based on just who's there. So Brendel's your starter at center. So that's obviously there. So Feliciano goes on IR. Nick Sakel gets left guard reps. I don't know. That offensive line. I think Hubbard makes it.
I agree.
Just
He's
because
swing tackle.
Just based on experience, Hubbard definitely makes it.
Yeah.
And after that, it becomes Sakel. Brandon Parker, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is still there.
You've got you can choose from Barch, Zakel, Gutierrez, Nugent, Kingston, Parker.
Kingston's played well.
I always mess up his name. Alacone.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
He actually is intriguing to me, but he is an international exempt player, so you can keep him on your roster. He just doesn't count, and I like him. I think he has potential.
Yeah,
but that's like what you got. That's who you're picking for, and you have to decide how many offensive lineman they're going to keep.
And I think, again, it's Hubbard for sure. Like, I think that's absolutely about to happen. And then Zakelj, I think, makes it because they've been trying to push him in there. Does Barch make it? Which one of those guys do you think they can like skate by on the practice squad with?
I have Barch out. Back to the practice squad. I think Zakelj's beat him. That's definitely a competition that I've been watching throughout training camp, and Zakelj has played in starting role. Like, he started at left guard last week. He kicked the center. He clearly is proving he can play both those roles. He's honestly a little bit more athletic than Brendel. So they both, I would say Brendel and Zakelj have the same issue. Mm-hmm. They struggle with head up power from the nose tackle position. Mm-hmm. They're good at beating you side to side, but when they have to dig someone out head up, it becomes a challenge.
Bull rush.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's good in pass protection. He's not great. Like, you can tell he can get overpowered. That's where I'm like looking at Zakelj, where he's made monstrous improvements, but there's still some things that he can get better at, and most of it comes down to just being more stronger, more stout in certain areas. But that's about it. I think technically he deserves to be on the roster. So I think that Ben Barch is the last guy out. They keep Morris, Zakelj, Burford, Hubbard. Try to bring Barch back to the practice squad. Nugent, Kingston to the practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
I like Gutierrez. I think Gutierrez has just been, a solid guy. Why not throw him on the practice squad? Brandon Parker I could live without, but they'll probably keep him on the practice squad too.
Just veteran. Yeah.
So that's offensive line. Any other comments on that one?
Yeah, just the idea that now you kind of had options as center and you wanted to see what it was going to be, and now the injuries have pushed you right back to where you were with Brendel. So is Brendel still working his way back from injury? Is he more of the guy that we saw at the end of last year, or is he the guy from the year before? I think that center position now becomes, with the way that Pooney's playing, I think we know McKivitz is starting at right tackle, and obviously Banks and Trent when they're there. Now, who do you really, really look at as like the way that this offense operates when you need a center who is able to run those pin and pull moves and get down the field and everything, right? Because they're a little bit smaller. Can you live with the pass protection issues, or can they be fixed because maybe Brendel is due for some positive regression,
Yeah, I think it's been a hard training camp for Brendel because he's just been inconsistently out. It's just he's dealing with something. I don't know if it's the knee tendonitis or still, but we'll see. We'll see what Brendel looks like. Honestly, I mean, we talked about it. We were talking about it the week before with Banks, like concerned with Banks, and he goes down with an injury, and you're like, oh God,
no, it's getting scary now.
It's getting scary now because they got to find someone to fit in that role. So that's going to be an interesting one. Do you think any chance that we see Banks end up like as a potential early IR guy?
God, I hope not. Like, again, when we talk about, obviously you want improvements on the line, you start to say, yeah, you want an improvement at a spot, but the backup isn't better than him, and it can get worse. Like, if, so like baseline, we're just trying to get baseline. Like, we want baseline back, like at least that, like what we can set our watch to. From there, then we you try to make improvements to that. But no, I hope not. I really hope not. I think what's interesting, and I think somebody said about Kingston is, do you think that anybody looks at Kingston on a practice squad and takes a shot on him, man? Because did have a great 3-cone time. Again, what we call the short shuttle king. There's probably someone out there who's trying to poach like a guy who just like, again, it's not Kingston's fault that he didn't make it. It's just a numbers game and kind of how the way they build the roster.
Yeah, I think it all depends because he seems like a developmental guy. Having to come in, learn a new offense could be challenging. It'll be interesting. We've seen offensive linemen get poached before. Like, look at Il Manning, right? He got poached.
Il Manning.
Yeah, Il Manning, preseason legend.
Dude, I was talking about that with Steph, where I was like, yo, remember like how everybody gets upset about, when a practice squad person goes and they're like, oh my God, how could they let Il Manning walk? He doesn't crack Arizona's roster. He just ends up being around. Like, It's just funny
He's
to me,
on.
like how, yeah, but it's funny to me how yes, we understand that a 53-man roster and a cut down is going to have to put, good players on the street for a few minutes, and metaphorically speaking, obviously, because then they'll be they'll be picked up as free agents, but not everyone is like a hidden gem for the 49ers. Like not like I can't believe they let this guy walk, and it's just like there's so many players that we do that with, and they never do anything. Like on top of the guys that we feel are gems and stuff.
Yep. But there's always a couple that do actually fit the bill. But wasn't Ilm. We got Ilm at home. It's Dominic Pooney. He looks fantastic. He's the best offensive lineman on the field for the 49ers right now. It's not up for debate.
Without question.
And that's crazy.
And there's improvement. And it's not in pass pro because he's literally doing what he's normally done in his college career, which is not give up pressures and be a complete brick wall. It's the little stuff that he can improve in the run game. Sometimes he just grazes past a blocker. Like he can engage a little bit more. He can still work. Like he's not bad at any by any stretch at run blocking, but he can improve a little bit more and really, really become something that's like, man, we got ourselves a 10-year starter if that keeps up.
Man, it's exciting watching him play because we haven't had an offensive lineman show up and show out like that as a rookie since I can shoot. You could probably say Mike Iupati. Like Iupati was plug and play, day one starter at left guard with the 49ers as a first-round draft pick, though. But yeah, a lot of shades of Iupati, and it makes me happy. So very happy with Dominic Pooney and what he's been able to provide. Let's switch gears to the defense. I mean, we're pretty locked in on Jair Brown, Talanoa Hufanga, Malik Mustafa, George Odom. Those are your four, right?
I think George Odom is your starter opposite Jair Brown week 1. If Hufanga's not ready.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
Yeah.
I'm hoping Talanoa is ready. It's getting a little dicey though, with no practice this week, but there's still a 2-week period before the actual game starts where he could get some practice in. So we'll see. Cornerback, I think we agree that Ward, Yadam, Lenore, Green are locks. You think it's going to be 6 cornerbacks that they keep or 5?
I think Rock Ya-Sin goes to the practice squad. I don't know if he played well on
He did
on Sunday. He played well.
He's played well all camp, to be honest. Like he's kind of just been like a consistent veteran,
Darrell Luter had a little bit of a rough go on Sunday. I mean, he got attacked 6 times, but he only gave up 2 catches. But if you watch, there was some things to be concerned about. Samuel Womack is somebody that they love on special teams. Is that something that but he has issues in coverage as well too. It's tough, with this one, I would say. And also, let's not forget, the Ambry Thomas injury kind of puts him in a spot where they can just put him on IR as well too and keep him around, because I think regardless of how much we have kind of written him off, I think they still would have taken a chance on the fact that he's been experienced in the defense, and they drafted him and probably kept him around before they cut him, I think, at least in that case. So, man, I think they like Darrell Luter. I think regardless of what happens Sunday, I think
I do too.
I think they're going to give Darrell Luter a look.
This is basically his rookie season, right? Like,
right.
Even though he did play last year, this is really his rookie year.
Right. I think they really like him, and they want to see what he again, having him out there in special teams during the Super Bowl, like it shows that they want to keep him around and they want to push him a little bit more. So I think Darrell Luter makes it. And then that leaves like Womack and Rock Ya-Sin. If you put a gun in my head, I think you probably keep Rock Ya-Sin, and Womack actually goes to the practice squad.
No, I agree. I agree too. I think that's who it's between. It's between Ya-Sin and it's between Womack. And for the simple fact that Ya-Sin has been more consistent, they need someone that they can rely on, not upside. Yeah. And so I think the 49ers have proven to us that they're shifting away from upside to consistency. So that's why I think Rock Ya-Sin makes it, and they try to get on it. But I do think Womack could very well be a poach candidate for sure. Like
Yeah,
I can already picture him wearing Washington Commanders gear. Like the second he hits waivers, Adam Peters picks up the phone. He's on his way to
that's
DC.
why. That's why you. That's my God. I think the Eagles too. They do that so much as well too. So it's almost like if you're about to get off this roster, someone is going to pick you up, and it's probably going to be the Eagles. And why wouldn't Adam Peters come knocking at your door? So you might be just headed to the NFC East real quick.
Yeah. This one's funny. Brandon says, "Cut Moody, bring back in.
Nope.
Trade Jones.
No, he needs to be career 49er. He needs to go in the Ring of Honor, because I will not live with him just getting cut. Like, it's him getting cut and him being sent off for my beautiful prince, Joey Sly, who stepped in and did a bang up job, which literally, like, the same thing with Mitch Wisnowski, right? It's like, do we have a punter controversy?
I've heard that.
I mean, look, I don't know if he can do that consistently, but you see what I'm talking about? Like, you see how you just got a guy off the streets and he was just like, yeah, I can kind of kick.
I don't think we have a punter controversy. They love Mitch there.
No, they drafted him in the 4th round. He better make it.
But to what you were saying, it proves the point of, do you need to draft a punter?
No.
Or can we just find a guy who can kick the ball?
I know a guy is how you find a kicker. I know a guy.
I know a guy who can bang punts inside the 10. Yeah,
I know a guy.
I think he's selling over at State Farm right now. Bring him on in.
Right.
Like,
I mean, he's working. Never mind, man. Let's get off it. But yeah, that's pretty funny. But I thought it was kind of funny to see Harvin come in and, but the Steelers fans are quick to point out. They're like, no. The Steelers fans are quick to point out that they're just like, dude, he is not consistent at all. That's fine. Like, this looks fine here, but then he does some crazy stuff. And I'm just like, it's got to be Mitch regardless. Like, it has to be because of what you invested in him.
Yeah, it's got to be Mitch. He's paid. It's going to be Mitch.
It's done. Yeah.
So I think we agree there. Linebacker wise, I think we agree Dre Greenlaw starts on PUP. So he won't kick against the roster. So it's Fred Warner, Devondre Campbell, D Winters. And then I think you can make the case for multiple guys. What's left is Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, Jalen Graham, Curtis Robinson, Tatum Bethune. Who do you see making it out of that group?
Curtis Robinson looks great. He looks great. And he looks like he wants to be here. D Winters, I think, makes it. Jalen Graham is somebody who flashes, right? Like, you see it.
Yes, flashes.
So
there's upside there.
So that's the hard one, right? Like,
upside versus consistency.
The Jalen Graham, Curtis Robinson, DFF, who's stuck around and been like a special teams guy and has just been.
They love DFF, bro. Like, he's not only, like, I think people don't understand how much he is loved inside that locker room. Like, on the field, fans are like, oh, DFF. And okay, I can understand that argument, but he is a key special teamer. They love that dude inside that locker room. He's a glue guy that people don't even really consider.
That's the thing, is he's a guy that's stuck around this roster regardless, right? Like, no matter who else was on this roster. So it's going to come down to them. I think because they drafted, obviously D Winters is going to make it. Devondre Campbell, you're talking Fred Warner. I think Curtis Robinson makes this roster. He's just played well enough to warrant it. Like, how could you keep him off of this roster? I
think it's between DFF and Curtis Robinson. I think it's between those two. And that's a challenge. That's a challenging position for the 49ers. Might not be for fans. I'm sure the fans would lead Curtis Robinson. And you've seen things from Curtis where you're like, oh, hell yeah. And DFF's been hurt throughout, training camp and preseason. So it's like he hasn't gotten a lot of run. But I think there is a level of trust there with DFF. And they understand how good he is on special teams. And again, the things that we don't take into consideration that they do, how do you fit into this locker room? He's one of those guys. Like, he's one of the guys in that locker room. So it's going to be a challenge. I think it's probably between DFF and Curtis Robinson. I have them keeping DFF, but I could be wrong. It could definitely be Curtis Robinson, and they could try to get DFF on the practice squad. But I also think DFF's one of those guys. He hits waivers. He's on another team with a D'Amico Ryans, with Rand Carthon, with Adam Peters. Someone knows who he is. They know what he is to that locker room. They're going to bring him in and to play special teams. Like he has a role in this league as a special teamer. So it's who values that. Do the 49ers value that, or do they think someone else will? So that's, you say Robinson.
I say Robinson.
I say Flan. But again, it's literally a flip of the coin, I think, with either one of those. I think go either way.
I definitely
I
say
like
Robinson.
I like that we're kind of on the opposite side of the coin for once.
And there's no wrong answer here because, again, what do the 49ers value more, right? Like someone that they can, knows been in the building, knows their culture, has been fine, or, is it time to give the young guy a shot who's been, playing his ass off and talked about how he had other options to go to other teams and wanted to stay and learn under Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. So, again, culture is not an issue with Curtis Robinson. So, I mean, when you couple that with the way he's been playing, have you seen enough of DFF in the time of him being here to just say, let's take a shot?
Well, and you remember, too, Curtis Robinson made the active roster and was immediately put on IR as one of the wildest most questionable roster moves I had seen the 49ers make because they didn't use him at all that year. So they burnt a roster spot on him. And I remember there were some other good players that they let go that got poached. It was just one of those, like, what are we doing here? It's also a sign that they like him as well. And that was like 2021 that he made the active roster. So, yeah, it's going to be a battle. That's actually one of the key battles. I think we kind of identified that coming into camp. Tatum Bethune probably going to be practice squad guy. He looks good. Like he looks like one of those, a 7th round linebacker, Jalen Graham-esque. Let's get him developed. Let's get him on the practice squad, see what he can do. Defensive line wise, I think we're in agreement in Bosa, Collins, Hargrave, Floyd.
Bosa's not making his team, pal. Let's talk about it.
Yetur, Gross Matos, Kevin Givens, Jordan Elliott, Robert Beal. Are we pretty locked in with those 8?
Yeah, I think Robert Beal is definitely going to make it. Yeah.
So outside of that, you've got the newcomer Nick Williams, Alex Barrett, who had a nice game against the Saints and just a perennial practice squad guy, but he plays really hard and just doesn't get those ops all that often. Evan Anderson, undrafted free agent, T.Y. McGill, Jonathan Gavin, who's actually kind of looked nice. Sam Okuwanu, Clea Davis, unfortunately, will probably start on IR, and then Shaquille Brown. Do you think any one of those? I have one spot left for the defensive line. Which one of those guys would you pick?
Alex Barrett's making a case, like right now, in terms of what you just saw in this game. I mean, he was in the backfield the entire game. With the loss of Drake Jackson, it feels like, okay, that's automatically where you want to go. But we've talked about it a lot. Gross Matos has got flexibility rushing inside and out. And I think they're going to use him in that way because they can still put him on the field with Jordan Elliott and Malik Collins. Even if they want to give Hargrave a few plays off, they can play all together and he can move in different ways. And if he has to play inside, he can. This one's really hard, man. I would have said Alex Barrett just because of the way he's been playing. You know what? That's who I am going to say. Whatever. I'm going with the guy who has his stock up right now. And I think it's hard to deny what he did in this game. I mean, he had 4 pressures, I think, on like 12 true pass sets. He was just a menace in this game. And the Saints were playing their guys. So I think that's another thing that's kind of important when you point out what he did.
Yeah, I think I've always appreciated Alex Barrett's talent. I remember when we brought him in 2020, and he had that game-winning play. It's like is either a sack or he forced Kyler Murray to get rid of the ball on a 4th down. And I just always appreciated because he was cut, I think, 6 times by the 49ers just that season alone. And he has stuck around ever since. Now, he's a guy that gets elevated on game day sometimes. I think he got some run last year late and through the playoffs. So they like the guy. And it's hard. It's like I struggle. I think your point of Yetur being able to be a guy who plays inside could allow them to go outside. I like Garvin. I think he shows a little something.
He's good too.
I like T.Y. McGill. I find myself keep coming back to T.Y. McGill.
He plays. Like, he's played again. When you talk about who's stuck around on the roster, he plays.
Yeah, and he typically plays well when he gets in. And because of my concerns with interior line depth, but that's the thing, Jason. I have concerns with interior line depth and edge depth.
Yeah. What do
I
you
think it might be the weakest depth they have on the entire roster.
So that's kind of my point. Is like Gross Matos is technically an edge, but if you feel that he's good enough on certain downs to kick inside, and you're able to still get another edge out there and feel like you can get a little bit more of a boost from that because he's probably beating the bigger guards and quicker than them and making good moves. Like, it's not crazy to think that, hey, like we need to fortify this edge, especially if we want to get Nick Bosa on the field, but not keep him on the entire time, give him a little bit of a rest, be able to have that same sort of pass rush. So I don't know, man. Barrett's interesting. I think he's really interesting because they like him and the way that, the way he's performed, it's been hard to argue against it.
And Barrett, even though he is small, he can play interior. That's the other element. He's inside out guy. He can play. He's probably more. He can play. He can play both. So I think, damn, that's a compelling case. That's a hard one. If it is Barrett, I'm hyped for him. I love Barrett. That's my guy. That's challenging. That's a challenging one.
I think we're gonna differ on this one as well too.
You say Barrett, I'll say McGill, and we'll call it.
Okay.
We'll call it a day.
And I wouldn't be shocked at either. And I think you're probably you have a closer chance of being right, 100%.
So I like Evan Anderson for the practice squad, Garvin potentially for the practice squad, but outside of that, I think from a starting perspective, like this is a pretty strong roster outside of the rotating door at interior offensive line. I think obviously with Dre Greenlaw being out and Talanoa Hufanga being out, we've seen what Malik Mustafa can provide. Georgia Odom looks really good in training camp. And, we've seen positive things from guys like D. Winters. We expect Devondre Campbell to be the consistent guy out there. So I would say overall from the roster standpoint, this is still a really good roster. I just think, again, the fact that we're talking about like, oh, we've got some concerns with depth, that's still a good thing, right? Like the fact that we're more concerned about depth than anything else for the most part.
It's not starters. These injuries it's obviously not starters. And the people that aren't there either just don't have a contract or it's just why play them at this point? It's not starters. The issue is the depth. And that's where all these injuries are becoming concerning because then if there is an injury to a starter, if there is someone who has to go down, it's completely a different story than it was before. But we're starting to get there, and I think this week of practice and this game is going to lead them into a good spot because they have 6 days before cutdown. So I think they'll have everything that they need in terms of information. And some people are just going to make a push this past week. I mean, Jacob Cowing ramped up, played, boom, that's what you get. And now all of a sudden just building on that. So there's going to be players that have a chance to do that as well and state their final case. And I think that's what makes preseason games so interesting, especially when you get closer and closer to cutdown day.
Absolutely. We're close. I'm actually super happy to be able to be done with the offseason. I think this has been one of the more challenging off seasons for 49er fans. Honestly, Jason, I love that the 49ers have found a way to piss off the entire NFL with their offseason shenanigans. Normally it's just us, right? Like normally we're wallowing in the holdouts or the trade requests and the things of that nature. What I find to be fascinating about this one is the entire NFL is like, what are we what are you doing over there, guys? I saw Adam Schefter basically say, make a decision.
Right. So when the people that get paid to do this are upset with it, imagine what 49er fans have kind of been going through at the same time. So yeah, look, I mean, the easiest way to do this is this. You go on Twitter and you say, I'm hearing that the Ayuk deal is near done. And that's it. That's all you have to say. And then you wait. Because if it doesn't happen today, doesn't happen tomorrow, if it happens Friday, if it happens Saturday, then you can always just be like, hey, look, like I told you guys, the same reports are being reworded and repurposed. They're close. It's never been closer. This is what's been offered. just wake me up when it's done, man. I really I'm just completely out of it. I'm just gonna keep making memes about it and there's no thoughtful things to say about this anymore because there is no new information out there.
No, I love the idea that the Pittsburgh Steelers are still involved, and it's like,
no, they aren't. No, they aren't.
Yeah,
we want to pay George. We want to pay George Pickens #1 receiver money. Okay, what is that? Like, why are you saying that if you're in the mix for Brandon Ayuk? Like, come on.
Steelers are like, we're in the mix with $350
right.
for Brandon Ayuk, and the 49ers are like, oh, we're considering it. We've accepted that trade in principle. BS you have. BS you have. You're going to trade Brandon Ayuk for a second and a mid-round pick? My ass you are.
Right.
Like,
there you go.
Get I'm tired, man. I'm tired.
Yep.
I'm gonna be like Schefter and be like, let's get this thing over with now. Come on now. It's apparently at Jed York's door. So I don't know. I guess it's on Jed.
And then we can just ignore it as well too, since there's no real updates right now. So we could do a whole show talking about this 53-man roster because football is right here on the cusp of being here, and these are all decisions that have to be made, and it's still interesting. So we could at least, this isn't like the dead offseason when all this stuff would have just said, all right, we got to do a show about this, we got to do a show about this. Like, you know what I'm saying? We started talking about Brandon Ayuk here in the last 2 minutes of like a 50-minute show. So
Jason, it's not new. It's not new for the state of the franchise to omit the leading storylines from our shows. It's typically
I don't even know why people watch, because we're like, if you're here to hear our thoughts about the quarterback position or anything, this isn't the show for you. Yeah, we're not doing it.
So at least we got all the way through to the end without any Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams talk. It is what it is. Status quo remains, and hey, it is what it is. But you got anything cooking? What's today? Wednesday. The rest of the week.
Yeah. So Thursday, obviously travel day, so there's not really any practice. Tomorrow, players that need to step up will be on Niners Nation. Today, I wrote things to watch for in this game. I highlighted Jake Brendel. I highlighted the tight end room, all those things, so you could, see my elaborate thoughts on that. Yeah, and just same old, Friday, thank God we get done with the preseason, and then we can start setting our fantasy drafts, and it's Labor Day, and all of a sudden, bang, September 5th, and the Ravens are going to be playing the Chiefs.
Yep. I just hope they get this done before Friday. I want to enjoy the mini bye week before the season starts. Mm-hmm. If they take that away from me, I'm going to be real cranky. Not going to lie.
Why won't they think of Brett?
They don't think of the content creators, Jason.
They don't think they don't think of just the little people. Like Brad wants to relax, okay? I don't want to have to do shows anymore. Why do you keep doing this? Why are you not thinking about us? I want to
do things with my kids I haven't been able to do because I'm chained to my desk thinking like, oh, it's any minute now. I'm just like, God, this is ridiculous, man. This is ridiculous. It's pissing me off, honestly. I'm just like, this takes too long.
Stop stepping on the little people, 49ers. This is directly at you, man. Can you think of someone else besides yourselves for once?
They don't care, man. They're like, whatever, man.
Whatever, man. They're still going to come watch us.
Yeah, they're still going to talk about us nonstop. So whatever, man. I dropped a 53-man roster prediction. I'm going to drop it in the chat. If you guys want to go check that out, do me a favor. Go watch that video. That would make me happy. Also, too, we got a new sponsor on the channel, the Autograph app. Go download the Autograph app. Use the code SF9ers. You get rewarded for your fandom. You're going to love it, I promise you. But appreciate everyone for tapping in. That's Jason Aponte. Make sure you go sub to his channel, like the video, sub to mine as well, and like all that good stuff. Appreciate you guys. We're out of here for now. Peace. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.